What's going on, everybody? So, as of this recording, it is March 6th, and NFL free agency begins on March 16th. And I got to tell you, it cannot come soon enough. I feel like I've been more impatient, really, with free agency this year and maybe even a draft this year than I've ever been. And I'm sitting here kind of wondering why. And as I do some reflection, I think the big reason is because in 2021, I had a lot of hopes for this team. I thought I knew we had Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer, and I really thought that while we may not get into the playoffs, I thought there were going to be a lot more moments like the final week against the Indianapolis Colts for the Jaguars in that season. But while the Jaguars did win a couple games, I mean, they beat the Bills and Dolphins, and those were some awesome games. Outside of those games, there might have been two or three decent ones, and the rest of them were trash. And it was so hard to watch. And I think now I'm just in a mode where I'm so wanting to rectify it. You know what I mean? The head coach search took forever to find Doug Peterson. That was an exhausting process. And now we're looking toward free agency. And now it's like, okay, let's start bringing in some guys so we can really start to move forward when it comes to upgrading our personnel. Now, I want to basically in this video give you guys some free agents the Jaguars should target. Now, I'm doing this under a couple of assumptions. One thing I'm assuming in this, I'm basically projecting the Jaguars to draft Evan Neal at number 1 overall, and that's definitely not set in stone. I think there is a decision to be made about whether you want Evan Neal or Aiden Hutchinson, especially after Aiden Hutchinson had a pretty good combine and a bunch of players, defensive ends in the NFL are speaking pretty highly to some of the things that he's done because he's very, very technically sound. So I don't think Evan Neal at 1 is a lock, but for this sake, I'm going to put him at number 1, I'm going to project him at number 1. And another assumption I have is that I think Cam Robinson and DJ Chark will be gone. I think they'll go elsewhere in free agency, and with that, I'm going to attack free agency like that. And free agency is hard because the draft is so much easier because after free agency happens, you get to see what kind of moves your team made, and you really get to see where your weaknesses are. And everybody knows, look, if you're drafting at number 1, you're going to pick somebody at number 1. If you have the most cap space in the NFL, you might not spend a lot of money. And there might be situations where in the NFL draft, a player has to go where he gets drafted. It's not that way in the NFL. Like a player, they may just completely say, I don't want to play for Jacksonville. Or they might be a player that just runs for whoever gives them the most money. They might be a guy that there's certain things that he wants in a city. Maybe, his family would rather live in warmer climate than colder climate. I don't know. So you have to factor all that stuff in because I'm not going into this with the assumption like, oh, he wouldn't play in Jacksonville. I'm not going to assume things about a player that I don't know. And finally, when I attack this free agency, I'm keeping in mind that we have a quarterback that is the second year on a rookie deal. Very, very cheap. You have Walker Little, who will be playing probably right or left tackle, who's in the second year of a rookie contract. You're going to have Evan Neal potentially, playing one of your tackle spots that's on the first year of a rookie deal. So with all that said, the Jaguars have a lot of money to spend, and a lot of players aren't due to be paid for a long time, especially at the quarterback position. So with that said, the Jaguars should be extremely aggressive when it comes to finding ways to update this roster. Last year, we got a bunch of, Walmart brand players instead of going out and really swinging for the fences. That cannot happen this year. In order to be a great team, you have to have great players. You can't just have a collective group of good players because having a collective group of good players can only get you so far. It doesn't take you over the top. When you look at teams that win Super Bowls, they have great all-pro, Pro Bowl players on a team. They don't just have a couple of guys that are solid. You know what I mean? So, yeah. With that said, I'm going into it like that. So, number 1, Chandler Jones is a guy that I would target. Defensive end from the Arizona Cardinals, the Phoenix Cardinals. 71.5 sacks since 2016, third most in NFL. He's extremely productive every single year. Great player over there for the Cardinals. Gets a lot of pressure on the pass rusher, and I think that it'd be a great thing to do to pair him with Josh Allen. Then you have a really good 1-2 punch at each end of the defensive line. And, you also have some good solid depth behind there with guys like DeJuan Smoot and whatnot. He has a connection with Jacksonville. He played with current defensive line coach Brinson Buckner. He was the D-line coach over there for the Cardinals, so there is that familiarity. And the Jaguars were also his favorite team growing up. I don't know what the contract spot, according to Spot Track, his potential contract would be like a 3-year, $43 million deal. And I'm not going to, I don't know, I'm not Mr. Contract expert, but in my opinion, to get great players, you have to spend a great amount of money. You know what I mean? We can't be frugal and say, oh, I only want to pay him $15 million per year. If he goes to 16, you know what I mean? It's like at some point we have to pay the Jacksonville tax because we're not going to bring any players over here based on, our franchise greatness. You know what I mean? We're not going to get the Kansas City Chiefs, nod, or the Patriots or whatever, Steelers, whatever great historical team is out there. Just name your team. We don't get that. We have to pay the Jacksonville tax, and that might just happen. So Chandler Jones, number one, that's going to help our defensive line a ton. Number two, I would say offensive guard Brandon Scherff. Now, Brandon Scherff is an elite all-pro guard. His only question is availability. He does miss, he has missed games over time. And he is a guy that he would be playing right guard. So, I'm not going to have him switch to left guard because we have Ben Barch playing right guard. No, he will be a right guard. And the Jaguars need to massively upgrade the offensive line, especially when you look at things and, Cam Robinson probably walking in free agency. Andrew Norwell probably walking in free agency. You have to replace those players, and you have to get better than you were last year and years before. So you have to pony up and get your guy. And like I said earlier, man, the Jaguars offensive line is pretty cheap at the moment. It's pretty cheap, especially with the two young tackles. You have Brandon Linder, who's on a pretty decent deal, and other than that, you have nothing. You have nothing there. So Brandon Scherff is absolutely a guy that the Jaguars should go after, and I expect that to be a guy that's on Doug Peterson's radar. Spot Track projects him at 3 years, $39 million. So we'll see on that. Now, number three. This is a lazy one, but I just said wide receivers. Just wide receivers. Like right now, we just need to get talent at that position, especially because I think DJ Chark is probably gone. So at this point, we're not a team that's like, okay, we have that, really good route runner, shifty guy. We need a guy that dominates at the point of attack, someone that takes the top off of a defense. We don't have a lot at wide receiver right now. So the Jaguars just need to go out there and get a bunch of good players. The obvious one is Davante Adams. If Davante Adams somehow hits free agency, no team should offer a bigger contract than the Jaguars. Jaguars should offer him a contract and make Davante Adams say no. There's other teams that are in the competition, like the Las Vegas Raiders are apparently wanting to go after him. They also have the advantage of no state income taxes over there. However, they are paying Derek Carr a good amount of money. Like the Jaguars are not paying Trevor Lawrence the amount of money that they're paying their quarterback. So there's certain advantages that the Jaguars have. But man, if Davante Adams hits free agency, it would be a massive failure if the Jaguars don't get him. I'm going to just say that. So also, Amari Cooper is projected to potentially get cut by the Cowboys. I would definitely go after him. He's also a great player. He's got incredible production. People complain about like he does get injured a good amount, and he does have a lot of injuries, but he somehow plays through them, and he puts together productive seasons, and he would be great for us. And some other guys, Chris Godwin's, Mike Williams, Al Robinson, Michael Gallup, Christian Kirk. If you can't get the big fishes like Davante Adams, Amari Cooper, like Chris Godwin, maybe double up on some guys. Like if you're to bring in a duo of Allen Robinson and Christian Kirk, that's solid. And then you do that, you go attack some guys in the draft, and just if there's anything that needs to be revamped, it's that wide receiver room. Definitely that wide receiver room. I mean, even more so than the offensive line group, because the offensive line group, you see some guys that are going to be starters there. At the wide receiver room, I don't know what to make of it right now because that room is pretty bare right now. Of course, there's guys like Laviska Shenault that could maybe turn into something. I like Jamal Agnew a year ago, but nobody that I'm sitting here comfortable that they're going to help elevate Trevor Lawrence's play. That's all I had to say. So these are some options for the Jaguars. These are like the top three for me. I think, what we do number one overall, it's going to either, because right now you don't feel like it's anything outside of offensive tackle or defensive end unless the Jaguars decide to move back. Even if they move back, some of the guys like Ike Ekwonu might be there for tackle. There's still options at both of these spots. Kayvon Thibodeau, there are options. So even if the Jaguars move back to 4 or 5, they're still probably drafting an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. So we'll see. Obviously, we'll see what happens at the free agency. I'm just super excited for it, man. It's way too far away. I cannot believe I had to wait over a week for it because I am running out of patience for these different articles that are coming up. But one good thing is that March 8th, 2 days from now, is the franchise tag deadline. So that should help us out a lot when it comes to, especially with Cam Robinson. If the Jaguars let Cam Robinson walk, then the Jaguars have mega plans for left tackle because you don't let your best, most consistent lineman walk in free agency without a true backup plan to upgrade that spot. And whether that be maybe they go on and get Teron Armstead at left tackle, but I'm of the opinion that if you're going to go into free agency to upgrade there, I don't like letting Cam Robinson walk because it's like, okay, we continue with that stigma of we don't reward in-house players. We like to go out there and bring other guys in to hopefully upgrade. And a lot of times it doesn't work out well, man. It doesn't work out well. So let me know what you guys think of this list. Like I said, I'm excited for free agency, and then we can move on to draft talk, which is a lot more fun than free agency. But all right, guys, thank you for watching. Go Jags. You guys watched the whole video. Really appreciate that. You guys can subscribe to the channel for the best source of Jaguars news on the YouTube platform. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at UCF_Jaguar. And you can become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month for exclusive channel content. Thank you guys, and go Jags.